Hello and welcome to another episode of The Standings, where we review the sports standings, except we're sitting. We're back here. We have some great chairs instead of stools. I said the stools were being repaired, but we actually got real chairs. We're that high tech now. How have you guys been? How's your weekend, Cam?
Depending on how you like the games, pretty good. If you're a Chiefs fan, fantastic. If you're a Bills fan, you're probably miserable.
How about you, Maureen?
You know, as a Bills supporter this whole postseason, what can I say? I've had better weekends, but
It's been a tough week for football fans. I know there's not a ton of people rooting for, other than the Chiefs and Eagles. Nobody wanted this Super Bowl because it's already happened. We've already seen it. But here we are once again, and maybe, we can have better analysis because we've already seen this before. We've seen this.
Just send the meteor down, please. Just wipe them off the map or something. I can't deal with it anymore.
Looking at our Super Bowl, we have Chiefs-Eagles, with Kansas City being favored by 1.5 coming into the matchup. The over-under is 49.5. It's set for February 9th at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. My question for you both is, who has more to gain coming in this matchup, the Chiefs or the Eagles?
It's obviously the Chiefs. I mean, Mahomes is chasing greatness. He is right behind Brady, breathing down his neck. The same career, they have the same amount of Super Bowls right now. Mahomes get this. He'll pass Brady in amount of years. Kelsey, probably on the verge of becoming the greatest tight end of all time. The Eagles already got one. I mean, Saquon's already a top 5 running back in the league. Jalen Hurts is known as a consensus top 10 wide receiver, quarterback in the league. Eagles really don't gain anything. They already got their ring. Chiefs, they're chasing greatness.
well, here the Eagles have an opportunity to cut off the Chiefs and get rid of their three-peat. We don't want to see a three-peat, so the Eagles have an opportunity to be the underdog in this sense and really build up, so they could earn a lot from that too.
One person we have to look at going into this is Andy Reid. One person we didn't mention so far, Andy Reid, who's chasing Don Shula's records. Now he's chasing Bill Belichick. I mean, this might be the greatest coach of all time. And in the hindsight, we look at the Eagles. They really, like you said, don't have that much to gain from this. I mean, yeah, they're going to go against an ongoing dynasty, and if they lose, is really anybody going to criticize them? Is Nick Sirianni in risk of losing his job? No. Is Jalen Hurts in risk of losing his job? No. Is Saquon still going to have the best running back postseason we've ever seen? Yes. I mean, this is too easy of a question. I mean, and maybe I asked it because maybe we get difference in opinions, but the Chiefs have made it to the AFC Championship 7 straight times, so anything short of winning the Super Bowl for them is a failure. They definitely have more to gain coming into this.
No, definitely. I mean, if you're 2 out of your 3 losses are to Tom Brady, what are you going to do there? They have nothing more but to chase Brady now. They've lost to him twice. Now, might as well can't beat him, join him, get just as many rings as he has.
Moving on, we're going to look at the top players headed into the Super Bowl. I'm going to have a list. You can agree or disagree with the players that I have. But of course, starting this list at number 1, we're going to have Patrick Mahomes at the helm. He's on an ongoing season where he is chasing history with the three-peat. I mean, this guy, like you said, he's right there with Brady. He's, if not the best quarterback we've ever seen, the second best quarterback. And he's just unbelievable. I mean, we've seen great Super Bowl performances, and we've seen the defense carry sometimes the offense, but this team is chasing history, and he's the guy. Second, we have Saquon Barkley. Like we already mentioned, he's chasing history with Terrell Davis's record, and right now, he is the guy in Philly. I mean, that O-line has been performing phenomenally for him and backing him up, but Saquon is going to be the X factor for the Eagles. He's going to be the guy that turns it around if that Chiefs defense lets him. The third guy I have on this list is Chris Jones on the other side of the ball. He's going to be the guy that disrupts Saquon and helps that run defense shut down the Eagles, make Jalen Hurts pass. That will be the difference in this game. He's one of the greatest defensive players we've ever seen, definitely the most underrated we've ever seen. And this guy might be a Super Bowl MVP. That's my hot take for this. I have Chris Jones as the Super Bowl MVP. Fourth guy on this list is Travis Kelce. Like we've already mentioned, he's a tight end that is chasing Gronk now. And Jerry Rice for a tight end chasing a receiver and his records in the playoffs. I mean, Mahomes and Kelce, now we're talking, is better than Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. That's a crazy statement to say, and something that a lot of old heads might disagree with, but anybody who's watching football now knows how dangerous of a man Travis Kelce is. fifth, I have Jalen Hurts. It would be a shame to leave the other quarterback off the list. I mean, he just has to be important coming into this game. He's got a ton of pressure on him, and like he said after his game against the Steelers, he can do it. He can pass. So I want to see that in this game if the run gets shut down. Do I see the run getting shut down? Not really, but on crucial third downs, that's when this guy needs to be who we've seen in the past. That's my list. Tell me if you agree or disagree with any of what I've just said.
I mean, Hurts. I don't get why he has proved that team has proved that they can win without him, if anything. Hurts doesn't have all that pressure on him. He can win with throwing under 200 passing yards a game. They need Barkley. Hurts has done nothing. A.J. Brown needs to step up. Devontae Smith needs to step up. Jalen Hurts, he can just toss him a slant route and then they'll go 50 yards. Jalen Hurts really doesn't have to do any of the heavy lifting. That offensive line does heavy lifting, and so does Saquon Barkley.
I have to agree with you somewhat, but disagree in the fact that the importance of the position coming in. I mean, it's the reason I couldn't leave him off the list. He's the quarterback of the team, and when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of the game, he's going to be faced with, I have to make that big third down conversion, and that's why he is where he is. But I can see it. I can see some of it.
And look what happened the last time he played the Chiefs. Having to beat the guy. Fumbled. Failed Hail Mary. Then the controversial call. And they couldn't get it done.
I mean, many would argue he might have been the Super Bowl MVP if they had won the game, regardless of all of that happened. So, I don't know. We'll have to agree to disagree
And
there.
then the other one that you said was Travis Kelce, which I get that you can't leave him unguarded. He's going to be a weapon if he gets the ball, but what has he done this postseason?
He had a bad game last game, but the game before that against the Texans, he had a great game. It's a guy that, if they're left in the middle of the field, if the O-line holds up and Mahomes has time, that guy is the difference in the game. On a third down conversion that they need to get, he's going to be in the middle of the field, wide open, somehow. I mean, somehow these defenses just leave him wide open. It's like we've seen with Jerry Rice. It's just a guy that just can't be stopped. And yeah, I could see it's a tight end. I get it, but he's so important to this team.
I would argue right now that Kareem Hunt is probably more valuable than Travis right now. Just in terms of having to get downfield, Kareem Hunt was fantastic the first drive against Buffalo. Chiefs, yet again, it's just like Hurts. They can win without Travis, but when Travis is needed, he shines in those bright moments, just like Chris Jones, fourth quarter warrior. Like, in those big moments, they are needed, but in terms of winning this game, they have to. Kareem Hunt is probably a better overall option than Travis.
What do we think? How was the list?
You know, I will say Jalen Hurts at 5, I think that is the appropriate spot for him because, honestly, when you read Eagles news, who are you seeing? First name, Saquon Barkley. He is probably the most important Eagle. Not even probably. He is the most important player on the Eagles right now. So, but this is a quarterback's game. You can't just leave out the other quarterback there. So, he is still needed there.
All right, well, there's some agreements and disagreements with the list, but let's move on, where the Cowboys have hired Brian Schottenheimer. Now, Brian Schottenheimer is the former Cowboys OC under Mike McCarthy, and Jerry Jones, in an interview, said he was, quote, all in on getting it done with less.
Yes.
What do we think of this hire? Does it change your perception of the Cowboys moving forward?
So, according to CBS, I saw this thing, and they were like, Jerry Jones is going for a profit and comfortability for the Cowboys, and they don't want to build a Super Bowl team. They have him on one of the lowest paying head coach positions for a 4-year contract. So it's just like, throw him in there. He knows the team. Let's see what happens.
Jerry Jones, I'm speaking for America. Keep doing what you're doing, buddy. You're doing a fantastic job.
And when we look at this hire, it's kind of underwhelming, and all this talk about Dion getting hired, now that's totally diminished, and now we know it was meant to just make the news cycle and interrupt all of the good teams that were in the playoffs. I see this hire as moving someone up because you know you're going to be able to boss them around. Jerry Jones is just going to be able to do whatever he wants with this guy and say, you know what, you want to draft this guy? Nah, I'd rather this guy. I'm the boss, I'm the owner, and the GM. He's just taking full control of the team in the most Jerry Jones way possible. We look at this team and they've spent the least on free agents so far in this last season. I mean, this is a team that is, quote, all in, but isn't really all in.
Yeah, and as offensive coordinator, he hasn't called the plays in 2 years for this team. So it's just like, what's he doing? What's he doing?
And then on top of that, You hire Matt Eberflus as your defensive coordinator. A disaster that he ran in Chicago, a horrible culture, and then, you know what? That'll be a good fit to like rebuild a culture, rebuild what really means to be a Cowboy. Let's add a horrible culture hire on top of that.
I mean, this is the Dallas Cowboys. For a team that has such a high market, it's being ran by such a dumb man. I mean, this guy, he just can't keep himself out of the news cycle. He can't keep himself out of saying something dumb. And one of the things of saying you're all in and then you make this hire, this isn't even someone new. This isn't even a fresh face into the organization that would build a new culture and make the Cowboys a playoff team again, make the Cowboys watchable again.
Yeah, they didn't even interview any like big hires like Ben Johnson, no interview. Aaron Glenn, no interview. So they knew what they were doing going into this. But
at this point, just rehire Mike McCarthy. I mean, nothing's changing. Cool, they changed DC. Like nothing's gonna change from this year to last year with this hire.
And it's weird because he might have been, if say he did not coach the Cowboys, he probably would have been the top candidate for them coming in. So it's kind of just a little tomato on your face at the end. It's like, come on now.
Keep doing what you're doing, Jerry.
Moving on, well, the Raiders who hired Pete Carroll. I want to know your thoughts and if this hire changes the Raiders going forward, maybe makes them a better team.
What I'm worried about with this hire is he will be the oldest coach in the NFL. 73 years old, turning 74 in the season. A 3-year contract with the ability to make it a 4th-year extension. Are you too old to play in this current game?
I think his coaching hires really proved that in Seattle with horrible offensive line, horrible defense. I mean, he kind of ran the defense, but it proved after Legion of Boom, my God, that defense was horrible.
And I think this hire is just a stepping stone hire. It's like, hey, we're going to get this guy in to build a culture, and then we're going to have him develop these young guys, maybe bring in Russ, which is absolutely outrageous. And he comes into this division where we talked about it last week with Ben Johnson, where you come into a division where you're the only non-playoff team, and you get hired as the head coach. And it's a hard job to come into, but especially in this division, it might be more well-coached than the NFC North. The NFC North has great coaches, but when we look at this, it's Sean Payton, Andy Reid, and Jim Harbaugh. That is crazy. And he probably comes in this division and he's like, oh, I get to face Jim Harbaugh again. All right, yeah, that's cool. But this team needs to move up in the division. They can't just be, oh, we have a great culture, because sometimes that doesn't work for teams. This team's culture, as far as I've seen so far, has been making fun of the Chiefs and how Patrick Mahomes talks. That's all I've seen in the news cycle from them the past years. So Pete Carroll's going to come in. He's going to be the angry guy that comes in and says, hey, we got to get our stuff together. And maybe that helps for the next coach that would come in. But the Raiders are probably going to be uninteresting for the next 2 to 4 years, however much that contract holds out.
Yeah.
What you're forgetting is Aiden O'Connell is the last quarterback to beat Mahomes at Arrowhead, man. Like, the Raiders are going to be dangerous.
That is true. I really never thought about that, but that is the fluke game that is holding them together. It's holding together their culture, and I think Pete Carroll's going to come in and say, yeah, can we forget about that game? You guys won that game, but never think you're going to beat the Chiefs until we beat the Chiefs with a real quarterback.
Definitely.
The last thing we'll talk about is the NBA All-Star Game, which is coming up. It's going to be February 16th at the Chase Center in San Francisco. A little home game for Steph Curry as he comes in. We have the Eastern Conference starters being Brunson, Mitchell, Towns, Tatum, and Giannis. And the Western Conference, Shea, Curry, Jokic, Durant, and James. My question to you both is either who got snubbed or how do you think the weekend will play out?
I honestly think that the West is probably going to completely sweep the East. The East is really weak right now.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Tell me
I'm
about
all for the East. I'm always for the East. I will always root for the East. Giannis knows how to take care of this team. Didn't we win last year with the East? Going against a very similar team. The East has got this.
Oh.
It's fine.
Okay. I mean, I'm just thinking about in terms of depth and starting depth. Joker is better than Cat. Shai is better than Spida. Curry's better than Brunson. As a Knicks fan, I hate to admit it. KD, better than Tatum. The only one that I would argue over is Giannis being better than Braun.
Really?
I would argue it.
Is
That's
KD better than Tatum? Are we definitively saying that?
I am willing to say, how many Finals MVP does Tatum have?
I understand. I understand this. I understand this,
is
but
Boston, this is all Boston.
this
hate, by the
is
way.
one.
This is to get a rise at it because I hate Boston. that one's a little egregious, I will say, but it's okay.
I think of KD as 0 championships. That's just in my eyes. You know, I agree. You know, you got the MVP, but think of him as 0 championships. I think of Tatum as a guy who's just getting better and better. And then as far as the Giannis and LeBron conversation goes, you know, Giannis is a guy who's getting better and better, and LeBron's aging, and I don't even know if I'd have him as a starter. I know that sounds egregious to say, but the guy's getting old, and we need to kind of move on.
I think we ride LeBron until he can't move no more.
I think that's what's happening.
He's the face of the league.
Yeah.
You can't just say, all right, Bron, you're not an all-star, even though you're averaging 20. Like, no matter what, he's going to be a starter, even if he is declining.
Yeah.
So if there's one guy in this who got snubbed in this All-Star game,
I'm not saying it because I know who it is. And I think you know who it is, but I'm not saying it.
I'll start with mine then. LaMelo Ball.
I'm not saying
LaMelo Ball. How is he not a starter? Like, genuinely, he got the most fan votes as a guard in the East. Not starting on this team. He is so fun to watch, too. If you're watching his games, what a great player. And to not put him on this starting team, it seems kind of a shame.
I think it's right, honestly. I think Brunson deserved it. No further comment.
I mean, as far as that goes, I can kind of agree and disagree with that because he's having a great season, but it might be a product of the team that he's on. I mean, we saw this with Terry Rozier when he was on the same team. He was great, and then he goes to Miami, who's slightly better team, and then all of a sudden all those stats plummet down. They're all gone. The guy that I have that got snubbed is Cade Cunningham. This guy has made the Pistons relevant again. They're over 500, and I know that's decent, but he has made them relevant again, having 25 points per game nearly, 6.5 rebounds, and almost 10 assists a game. This guy is getting the ball to his teammates. There's a lot of myths that he is a ball hog when he gets into the game, but he's a great teammate. He got the Pistons to be relevant again. I mean, this guy needs to be an all-star selection. It's kind of outrageous to me.
How many turnovers?
I understand the turnovers that Cade has, but as far as point guards go, a lot of guards have turnovers, and that's going to be what happens in games. James Harden had a lot of turnovers, but he also has led his teams as well and had all-star selections every year.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Standings.
Tune in next time for our Super Bowl score predictions and more.
Or check out other Royal Studios content and leave a like if you enjoyed. See you next week.